Thanks for staying on. Welcome back to the marketplace. Now, it could be a good time to do away with your dollars being held if it is not really needed. It has been projected that the cedi could be stabilizing firmly against the US dollar when it comes to how it is being sold by commercial banks. The following business desk report looks at why you could be losing a lot in the coming days.
The cedi's sharp depreciation against the dollar since December last year presented an opportunity for investors and businesses to strategize so they can lessen the development on their operations. Those who were directly involved in the dollar business sought to engage in some forex hedging so as to minimize the losses. Others also saw this as a good investment opportunity and went out to look for more cedis to buy dollars in order to make some good returns. For instance, around December 2016, about 3 Ghana cedis 90 pesos was required to get $1. Earlier this month, 4 cedis 80 pesos was the amount needed to get $1. So whoever invested in some dollars during this period could be getting a little over 20%, which is quite better than what one can get from other investment instruments on the market. But with the cedi's performance over the past week, things could be normalizing by the end of this month. It could be a good time to get your cedis from your dollar assets so as to lessen the expected losses and not regret going that way.
Away from that, the rising loans that banks fear might go bad could cripple the banking industry. That's a warning coming from Economist Dr. Charles Aka. These bad debts, which industry analysts say is hitting almost 10 billion cedis, has seen government reach an arrangement with these institutions to clear a fraction of it. Some of the banks are said to be in serious financial distress, which see them go down very soon. But Mr. Dr. Aka tells Joy Business the situation calls for drastic measures to save the banks.
I think we need to be honest with that. It's getting out of hand. I know of a number of banks. I sit on some boards of banks as well. Particularly the rural banks, for example, are suffocating. And some of them are government borrowing. Government has more or less borrowed through the back door. Government has given contract to contractors to build schools and several projects in the villages and districts. And those contractors went and took loans from banks with expectation that government will make good the payment. And they have finished. Some of them are still having their certificates coming to the Ministry of Finance every month for 3 years, 2 years, 5 years. They've not paid. So the banks can't get their money back from these contractors. So some of them are that. Others are just because of the last 4 years of doom so and the global challenges and the economic challenges we have. Business have not been good for businesses, private enterprises, even for the banks themselves. So it's quite challenging, and I think we need to admit it. If you have about a quarter of your loans not performing, that's quite huge. The average for the sub-Saharan Africa or for middle-income countries is about 5%, and we are having about 20% of non-performing loans. It's something that we need to worry about.
Has done the ESLA, VRA debt, they structured the deal to pay it over the period, but it looks like that is still not enough. You still go through the books, and it's very bad.
Yeah, it's still not enough because they still haven't paid some contractors, and also because some of them are not government related. Some of them are just private sector. Somebody went and took a loan to start a business, and then Doomso collapsed the business. He can't pay the loan. And there are many of them. Thousands of businesses have collapsed in the last 4 years. How do they pay the loan? So the banks, they are struggling how to get these loans back. Now, we talked about this when the Doomso was in that we needed to find the money to resolve it. And the longer we delayed for 4 years, we saw businesses collapsing and people losing jobs. And therefore, they can't pay. And they have gone for loans. They can't pay. So it will take time. And if it gets out of hand, government needs to come in to bring a bailout.
That's what you comment?
Well, if it gets out of hand, at the moment.
But some are saying that it is getting out of hand.
So, well, I think the new government needs to look at it, and if it's something that's going to bring a crisis, we want to avoid it. So, I mean, we've seen it in Europe and we've seen it in America. So, we want to avoid a banking crisis. So, if it means we need to come in, step in at the right time, we should do so.
A very precarious situation indeed. And away from the financial sector, Director of Export Marketing at the Department of Trade and Industry in South Africa, Saima Sarda, says her country is looking forward to building a stronger economic partnership with Ghana. This, according to her, is because both countries have yet to tap into potential trade and investment opportunities.
About 20 investors from South Africa are currently in Ghana on an investment mission. The objective is to increase trade and investment and deepen bilateral relations between South Africa and Ghana. The trip will also serve as an ideal opportunity for South African companies to export value-added products and services to Ghana for the penetration of the companies that are looking for investment opportunities in the two countries. Director of Export Marketing at the Department of Trade and Industry in South Africa, Sima Sada, is leading the mission to Ghana. She spoke to Joy Business at a business networking session.
We're currently sitting at around about 5.2 billion rands in terms of total trade, but I think that we are not doing ourselves justice, because if you look at the vast potential that exists between both of our countries, I think that there's a lot that we can do. There are a number of areas that both the Ghanaian side as well as the South African side have identified as potential areas for cooperation. I think it's very important for me to also emphasize that with Ghana, with Africa as a whole, Africa is at the center of our foreign policy. And for us, growing the economic trajectory of South Africa and Africa is very, very important to us. So in that regard, we look forward to increasing cooperation, increasing our footprint, not only from an export perspective, but more importantly from an investment perspective in Ghana.
Some of the visiting South African investors spoke with Joy Business.
Conlog is a proudly South African company. We we are an OEM. We manufacture prepaid electricity meters and solutions for Africa, for the rest of the world as well. So our solutions are smart meter systems. The expectation in Ghana is obviously to come back into the market and to introduce our products and solutions into the market.
Ghana, I've heard that it's a very good industry for essential oils, because I actually understand that you actually, farmers here manufacture the actual essential oils, the plant that we extract our essential oils from. So it's a very good market for essential oils. That's why we're coming to see if we can get opportunities from here.
Ghana is among South Africa's top import partners.
Now into some aviation story. And new managing director of the Ghana Airports Company, John Atefa, says his immediate priority is to focus on making Ghana the hub for the aviation business in West Africa. The former chief executive of the National Petroleum Authority was last week nominated as MD for the Airports Company and approved by his board yesterday. Mr. Atefa tells Joy Business that this vision will be supported by quickly putting up infrastructure at the country's airports.
Ghana Airports, in order to achieve these objectives, are set out to expand its facilities. So Toka now has 2 terminals and we are on Terminal 3. It is our hope that that will be completed in time. We think that we have the capacity to do that very easily, considering that a lot of visitors find our airports very welcoming, and therefore I think what one needs to do is to try and put in this infrastructure and also try and attract more airlines into the country. Now that we have Air France, it is our hope that those who came and left could be attracted back, and also enhance the domestic airline services so that they provide the linkage to ensure smooth transport around in our country and around. We need to, now that we are coming in, we'll look at all the timelines and works done and all issues related to the construction, and see whether we can meet the deadline or if there are any bottlenecks, try and remove them as soon as possible so that we facilitate that.
John Atefa is the new MD for Ghana Airports Company Limited. Now, Vodafone Ghana says it does not see consolidations in the telecoms industry as a threat to its operations. This follows the planned merger between Tigo and Airtel, which persons close to the company say could be fully finalized next year. The two firms are currently awaiting regulatory and government approval for their planned marriage after a formal request was made. According to projections, the merger entity would take the number 2 spot in the industry, a position which is currently held by Vodafone. Ebenezer Amankwa is Corporate Relations Manager of Vodafone Ghana.
As a company, our strategy for the next 3 years is based on digitalization, making sure that nobody in Ghana is left behind. That is a strategy that we will not renege at all on. And so we'll continue to progress with that strategy. And because it's 3 years, there are a lot of dimensions in it that would help us further consolidate our position as a strong number 2 and even beyond. And that we are going to do. So we will never back down from what we have set out to do as a company for the next 3 years. This has just happened, but of course, every company strategizes when market conditions continue to evolve. And that is no different with Vodafone.
But that's not the key thing that you've already outlined in the public that you're looking at to to consolidate your position and even leapfrog as well to possibly number one?
Well, as we speak, we have introduced Vodafone Fiber to the homes. Vodafone Fiber is a platform that is beyond the copper broadband that we currently produce, and fiber is one platform that we can use to enhance our market share, to enhance our subscriber base as we move on. As we speak, we are now a supernet, meaning that, George, as we speak today, Vodafone gives you the platform to become all that you want to be, whether at home, in the office, or on the go. And that will never change. As we move along, in fact, next 3 weeks, we are going to unveil a new product that is a subset of SuperNet, and it will continue to the year end to further open our frontiers and expand our subscriber base. So that is an ongoing process.
In your engagement in Tamale, you spoke about still being interested in 4G. Is that what I get from you? Initially, the commentary was that, well, that is not the focus now. Are you now more upbeat and more focused now in securing that license?
George, so our approach 4G like this. Is 4G the latest frontier of technology? Yes. Does Vodafone want 4G? Yes. Is it good for our customers? Yes. Can we afford it at the price now? No.
A former vice chairperson of the MPP, Wari, is returning to the Bui Power Authority as its chief executive. He took over as boss of the authority last month. Jabesh Atta, who took his terminal leave in January this year. Now, Mr. Wari is returning to a position that he held from 2007 to 2009 during the Kufuor administration. One of his major challenges he might have to address is how to harness the expertise of engineers at the authority to manage other mini hydro dams in the country. Another area that he could be looking at is expanding the capacity of Bui to manage other power generating units, the 50 megawatts power solar plant to support the already 400 megawatts. Now, moving on, new NHIS CEO Dr. Samuel Yawano has sent a strong signal to punish service providers who tender in false claims in an attempt to rip off the scheme. Speaking at a staff durbar after his introduction to the staff by the health minister, Dr. Arnott said his leadership will tackle the issue of corruption at all levels within the scheme.
Which direction do you want to steer this? I think all of us, knowing the perception out there, once we know the solution, if it is corruption, we have to root it out. If it is the income which is not enough, we have to correct it. If it is the administrative in terms of software efficiencies or inefficiencies that we have in the system, we have to make it more efficient. If it is our service providers whom we cannot control, by the minister hinted, you've got a claim which you think is not being properly prepared, send it back. If the same service provider continues to do that, he has to undergo some form of punishment or punitive action. If the laws have to be changed to make it a very serious offense to cheat the scheme or to steal from the scheme, we'll have to do that. Because if you cheat or you steal from the scheme, you're actually killing somebody. I wouldn't say you can steal from anywhere, it's not nice to steal. But if you want to steal at all, if you really can't stop stealing and you want to steal at all, or beg of people to steal outside the scheme. You can steal where maybe people will not die, but here when you steal, people will die. So for our service providers, I think we'll send a very clear message, very binding legal message, that if you steal, you can get away with it a day or 2 or 3, a month, a year, but the day you are caught, everything will come crumbling down.
Staying within the health sector, individuals that access homeopathic treatment can now enjoy health insurance services as part of mainstream medical care delivery. This is because private health care provider C4C Homeopathic Hospital has introduced an insurance policy to cut down on the costs incurred by clients.
About 2,000 Ghanaians have so far subscribed to the homeopathic insurance policy since its introduction about 3 months ago. At the official launch of the insurance product, Director of C4C Group of Companies, Reverend Dr. Franklin Boedu, explained the rationale behind the creation of the insurance product.
And currently, because our national health insurance scheme for some time now have not sought to address the needs of homeopathic patients in the country, that is why the C4C Homeopathic Hospital have been able to introduce the national health insurance scheme strictly for homeopathy in all our centers to be able to address the needs of Ghanaians who are currently patronizing our services. And currently, for less than 3 months now, we've been able to get close to 2,000 subscribers to this particular policy. And the policy is a 1-year policy that covers over 5 different benefits.
Reverend Dr. Boyd also called for representation of homeopathic healthcare providers on the Food and Drugs Authority. He explains how that could also bring down the cost of treatment.
It's a passionate appeal to the new government to really consider, in the Constitution of Ghana, according to the Ministry of Health Practice, you have the Health Directorate for Alternative Medicine, which we have a director responsible for alternative medicine. When you come to the Constitution of the Food and Drugs Board, you have someone representing herbal medicine, but not alternative medicine. And I see it as a reason why when you go to the Food and Drugs Board for registration of homeopathic drug, it costs high. When herbal medicine and orthodox medicine goes for $50, $100, $10 and all that, homeopathy goes for $3,600. And I see that's a way of hindering the progress and the importation of homeopathic treatment in the country.
Homeopathy, often referred to as alternative medicine, is a natural form of medicine used to treat both acute and chronic conditions.
You're still live on the marketplace. Moving on, managers of the clearance platform at the country's ports, GCNet, are promising a review of port charges before it gets clearance to start implementing tax cuts on imported items. The Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, is yet to start applying these taxes despite approval from Parliament. But GCNet says as soon as it gets the notice from GRA, it will extend the necessary reliefs to importers. Alvin Hagel is GM for GCNet.
Tax reductions have been very welcome by the business community, and we all expect that the business environment generally will improve in the next years to come.
One would ask that for a lot of businesses, tax items are always a big portion on their books. And sometimes when you even look at the banks and even before profit, their position is very good. After tax, sometimes their position is very, very in a sorry state. For you, what would this mean for your operations going forward? I mean, expansion, new areas, and all those things, because some are expecting that this should be plowed back into your operations.
Well, certainly the reduction is a good incentive for businesses to reinvest and to look outwards to new opportunities and so on. Having said that, obviously the overall reduction and impact on your bottom line is not that massive. I mean, it is different from, let's say, you would have a corporate rate reduction from 25% to 22% or to 20%. One of the practical steps that we are reviving at the moment is the paperless processing of trade or import declarations. What that means is you will not have to go to customs with documents, physical documents anymore at all. You will scan them, you will submit them through the GCNet system, and if an officer has to look at the documentation, he can do that on his computer screen.
Now, post-harvest losses still remain a major concern facing Ghana's agric sector as several crops are left to rot on the farmlands, often due to the poor access of roads. Joy News' Justice Beidou has been exploring this development as he gauges the extent to which farmers are losing their crops to the mercy of the weather at Amankwa-Krom in the Techiman North District of the Bonahafo region.
This is the road that leads to Amankwa-Krom. It's a small farming town of about 500 people in the Techiman North District of the Bonahafo region. This 5-kilometer stretch is one of many things standing between farmers here and the market. 70-year-old Joyce Farr is one of those farmers. Her 5-acre cassava farm was ready for harvest months ago. She's unable to harvest because no car can come here to convey them.
The
road is deplorable. Look at me. I'm old and weak. We can't do anything about the road. It's government's responsibility. During the dry season, cars use the road. But when it rains, no car can come here. We can't harvest. And when you do, you lose everything.
Huge amounts of food like this heap of cassava here continues to go waste in many parts of Ghana. And yet this is a country where nearly 1.6 million people are at risk of hunger and malnutrition. And in many cases, like it is here in Amankwa Krom, it's usually because there's no way to move this from the farm gates to the market where they are most needed.
And this is one of the places where cassava from villages like Amankwa Krom are needed. A gari processing factory just miles away, employing close to 200 women. But work here is slowing to a halt because they just can't get cassava supply.
We can't get cassava due to bad weather. And when it rains and we get good harvest, the cars can't convey them here because of the roads. This factory employs many people, but it is almost empty now. We can do more with a good supply.
The tragedy of post-harvest losses in Ghana is not just with the food that is wasted, but also with the economic opportunities on the agricultural value chain that this country will never realize. Justice Baidu, Joy News, Amankwa Krom in the Bronga Hafu region.
And meanwhile, the Agric Minister, Dr. Efiye Akoto, has warned that high food prices could affect food security in the country. But Dr. Akoto says, or he assures, that government will reduce or will help reduce food prices significantly through its Planting for Food program.
The state of food security, you know, Ghana, we are located in an area that God has blessed with good soil, rainfall, sunshine, everything. So nobody is starving in Ghana, but that's not the issue. The issue about security is to do with nutrition. You know, our fish catches are going down. Our livestock department is not doing well. There's very little milk. I don't know the last time you drank milk. This morning, you drank milk. Well, from a supermarket imported from South Africa, isn't it? Yeah. So we have livestock is another area. So we need to increase our protein content in our diets. And food prices in Ghana are just too high. When I say in Ghana, I'm talking about Accra, Kumasi, Tamale, Takoradi. When visitors come, they are amazed about the price of food. We need to bring this down, and the only way to do it is to increase the supply of food. This is why this whole thing is not only to make a decent meal for the average family in the urban area. We have to reduce food prices. And we can do that by generating the surpluses, by increasing productivity as one part, exporting surpluses abroad beyond us as another, and also adding value and all that. So there's a whole range of activities that are linked with this planting for food and jobs. If we, in fact, we project that if we have 200,000 farmers participating, we'll be able to do 300,000 metric tons of maize alone. 300,000 additional. So it's 1.7 million metric tons that was produced last year. On average, that's what is produced. We'll be doing 2 million. We could go to 2.5 million metric tons. We could go to 3 million. We could do 6 million. We have the potential. So we just need to focus, but we need to learn how to crawl before we walk, before we run. And that's the essence of this whole program of stepping up and stepping up and stepping up in the 4 years of this administration.
And on that note of assurance from their Greek minister, we draw down the curtains on this afternoon's edition of The Marketplace. Thanks for your company, and do join me again same time tomorrow. Good afternoon. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji.